Introduce my husband. This man is exceptional. He is. I'm so blessed. One of the things that struck me, he was a widow when we met, and he had lost his previous wife in a car accident. They were hit by a semi-type truck, and the car spun on black ice, and Heather was her name, and her neck was snapped. And the ambulance came, and he insisted on being the one to pick her up and lift her out of that car and carry her to the ambulance. And on the way, he praised God. And he wasn't praising God for her death, but he was turning to God. Now, this is a man that you're going to hear about who was a gang leader and a drug dealer and every other thing back in England. What God can do in a life. So I honor my husband, and we pastored together at Expectancy, but I love him, so I wanted to introduce him. Limey.
Yeah, I'll go over the logistics for you. I was an Air Force brat. You know, my dad was in the Air Force, and this is during late 50s, early 60s, the Cold War. And so I was born in 1957 in Riverside, California, and it was dynamite, you know, my first 4 years growing up. Great. Dad's there, mom's there, sunshine. Didn't need anything, you know, you got it made. And then we moved to London, England. And my dad worked at various United States air bases in that part of the world. And again, we were ready with the Cuban Missile Crisis and everything. Everyone was ready to get under the table and kiss your butt goodbye. You know, that was the end, you know. So Dad had a big drinking problem. And my mom wouldn't put up with it, you know. And so from a 5-year-old kid, I'm watching my dad stumble in the house and my mom taking a frying pan and beating the crap out of him because he's puking all the way into the back bedroom. And anyway, he leaves and heads back to the United States. And he abandons my brother and I. And this is typical of when you haven't got a man in the house, a father in the house. And it didn't take me long to get really angry, really mad. You know, I was the only kid that didn't have a dad. You know, it was, and it did something in me that anger turned to being violent, and got into a lot of gang activity, a lot of stealing, cars, motorcycles, antiques. Stuff. And I had a grandfather that used to beat the living daylights out of me, and that didn't help because you know he just wasn't a very clever fella. You know, I didn't need to get beaten. I needed to get looked after, you know. And he never caught on to that. And so life goes on, and, you know, I get into everything I get into, and what people don't understand is in these universities, in these chemical laboratories, in the pocket money those fellas make, I'm not talking about all of them, I'm talking about, say, 1%, they're making all the amphetamines. You've got a university laboratory where you can make drugs. And I was in with a fella that I could get them, and I was a distributor of them. You know, I dealt. And so Dad's gone, and Mom becomes a Valium addict. And a Valium addict, you get 30 years. That's the standard amount of time you do. Once you get on Valium, you never get off, you know. And what was going on then is the IRA were bombing London, and between 1970 and 1980, 500 terrorist bombs went off in London, one a week for 10 years. So 8 out of every 10 women in London were on tranquilizers, and no one knows that. 8 out of every 10 women were on Valium or on some kind of tranquilizer. So that was the you know, this is something really big about America, and especially Minnesota. You've got a system where if you're a one-parent family, there's a system where you can eat. Well, in England, there isn't one. There's no such thing. And it was tough growing up. It just was. And there was a complete lack of everything. Yeah, I couldn't read. I didn't learn to read till I was 21. Started to learn how to read. I couldn't understand a clock. I saw everything in black and white. And people would say, look at the grain in that wood. And I go, yeah. I couldn't see it. And you know, I drank for oblivion. I didn't drink for any other reason. I drank for until I didn't think anymore, didn't feel anything anymore. And that was the same thing with drugs. And and you, when you get older, you look back at things and you find out that the prisons are full of people that didn't have a father figure in the home. You know, if I had got caught for stuff I did, you know, I would have still be in there. The anger that was in me, there was clubs I was in, and they used to laugh at me because I said if the world had one throat, I'd cut it. And I meant it. I was that angry. And I'd get on a bridge with a block, and buses coming by, I'd grab the block, try to kill the driver. Didn't care. Didn't care. Get in gang fights and stab people and crowbars. And over here, you get to shoot people. They don't let you have guns over there, so you bludgeon them. You know, it's crazy. And so I get to be 21, and I go looking for my dad, me and my brother. We get on Freddie Laker's line-up, and you lined up on a jumbo jet, and you got on it for $50, and you flew to New York. And you get to New York, and you get on a Greyhound bus, and you run across the country. And you start seeing a different world in America. You just do. And we tracked him down, and he was dead. So we met relatives, his parents, my grandparents, and because Dad was in the military, I became a dual national. And what that means is, and my brother was a dual national. So you basically got two passports. You've got an American passport and a British one. And my American passport says that I can enter the United Kingdom for an indefinite period of time. So, you know, that's how I could be here, you know. And uh, found work in the Bakken oil field in the 80s. Nothing really changed in me because I still dealt with all the stuff I was dealing with, you know. And I still just drank for oblivion. And it was really funny because my first wife was a Pentecostal preacher's daughter that had run off. And I got hooked up with her, and it was 87 men for every one woman in that environment. And so bit by bit, she's planting seed about God in me, and God was anywhere near me, you know. It just didn't even mention, you know, I didn't even think about it. And so she's praying for me, and I end up going to Women's Aglow meeting. And I walk in the door, and everyone's got their hands up. I figured, you know, someone's got a gun, you know. They're going nuts, you know. And I get in there, and little old ladies that you can't deal with are praying for you. And I got hammered, you know. I got God, and then I didn't want God, because this is an alien thing in me, you know. I don't want God. And I leave, and I go to work with some guy, and he's a God man. He's preaching to me. I figure, piss on this. And I leave, and I go somewhere completely across the country on another job. I'm fitter welder. There's another one. So you start figuring out you're in. And then one day the booze was really getting to me. I was pissing blood, and I crawled out to the edge of my bed, and I said, Jesus, you're going to fix me or kill me, and I don't give a rat's butt what you do. I don't care, but you're going to do one of them. Boom. Instantly delivered. 40 years later, I'm talking to you. 40 years sober, no drugs. And it was just like that. Can't believe it. You can the difference it's made. I've got none of that grumpy in me anymore, got none of that violence in me anymore. I've got peace. I can live with myself. I get along with me. And I never used to, you know. I just couldn't handle me, And yeah, and see if I missed something. Oh yeah, this is funny. So we're back in about 1961, and the Beatles have took off, and that's everything. It was everything. It was massive, and so what I'm kind of studying on now is social engineering, how we're being programmed to be drug addicts, to be drunks, to be codependent, and it's opened up a whole new world of seeing what you're set up for by the enemy, how you were supposed to be destroyed, how you were supposed to spend life in prison. And instead of that, you get to be a preacher. You get to help people. You start seeing the world in a whole different way. And you just do, and that's the miracle of God. And he's for real, because if he can take a wretch like me and go boom, and be 40 years clean, because there's nothing in me that can do that. I can't eat one potato chip. I can't eat one M&M. I can't. That addictive thing is there. But he pulled that out of me, So I think that's about it.